Hello crafters, it's Kathy here from Scrap and Bean. I'm here to show you the measurements on a quick way to make a small little mini album. This is the finished album. We were just doing that as a quick project in our store tonight. And some of you that were here wanted to know the measurements and the pattern so that you could recreate this at home. If you weren't able to make it into our store tonight, you can definitely make yours at home as well. This is really easy and quite fast. To decorate the papers, I used this new collection from Heartfelt Creations. This is their Tropical Paradise collection. Beautiful bright colors, all sorts of great pictures. Love the flamingos, one of my personal favorites in the collection. And of course, I love the parrots. Woohoo, look at the parrots. Can't you just picture a scrapbook page with that? Anyways, what we did tonight was take some of the papers that are 6x6 patterns on the page, like these right here, and cut them up and use that to decorate our pages here. So the little 6x6 squares just fit right into this album perfectly. Anyways, what I'm gonna show you is how to make this base. So this is the base of our album. And of course I don't have it folded right. So this is the base. Looks like this when it's finished. Looks like this when it's a plain piece of paper and hasn't been decorated yet. So you open up the front cover and you've got the inside decorated. The next thing you do is flap down this opening, which is what we've got right here. And then you can flip this over as well. So when it's all finished, you have this cute little book, room for lots of photos, more photos, more photos. The back side, totally finished as well. So what we're gonna do is create this green little base, and you'll notice that there's a little notch out here, and then the rest of course is all scored. So you do need to have some kind of a scoring tool. I'm using a scoreboard today, and this is what we're going to create. I have here just on a plain piece of gray paper. So the measurements, if you want to get your pencil ready, we're going to make 2 score lines down this direction here. The first one is going to be at 5 3/4 inches. So I'm going to start at the 5 3/4 and go all the way down the page. And when I'm scoring, I like to do a light score line and then go over it a second time. So you're kind of breaking up the fibers of that paper gently and then doing it a second time to get a deeper crease so it's ready to score. And I know that score line's a little hard to see on film. And you can tell there is a score line though. You have to trust me on that one if you can't see it. And then our second score line, so again, you have your pencil there. It was 5 3/4 inches and we scored all the way down. The second score line is going to be at 6 1/4 inches. So at 6 1/4, score all the way down. And I'll go over that a second time. Now the score lines are going this direction. We're going to turn our paper. So the score lines we just made are going across here now. Now we're going to go back to 5 3/4 inches. And here's the tricky part. We're only going to go down as far as we get to cross the first score line. Stop when you get to the second score line. So we'll do that again. 5 3/4, cross right over the first score line, stop at the second score line. Then you're going to take your little tool here and just move over 1 notch. And you can feel it under the paper where the next groove in your tool is. That 1 notch over and go the rest of the way down. And I'll repeat that a second time to make it deeper. So then we go over to the 6 1/4. And we make another score line that goes the full length. So what we've got here is this space between the score lines is wide here until it comes down and crosses over the second score line, and then it gets a little bit narrower because that's where we moved over a gap. Then what we're going to do is cut this notch out. Now because of the score lines having a narrower gap here than they are anywhere else, it's important that you cut at the right spot. So on this sample, this is where the score lines are closer together, and we're cutting off to the left. So we're going to do that with our new piece here we just scored. So here's where my score lines are narrower together. This is where I'm going to cut. So I'm going to put that in my cutter, and I'm lining up. You're not going to be able to see this on film, I'm sure, but I can see it in person. Right where my, ooh, it's hard to even see it in person on this color paper. But that's where my score line is, and I'm going to cut all the way across till I'm crossing over the first score line. When I get to the second score line, there's a little marker on my blade here that tells me exactly where my blade is cutting, and that little marker points to my second score line, and that's where I'm going to stop. Then I lift up my blade. I'm going to shift my paper over so that my second score line is now lined up with the blade. Put it back down, and I'm going to cut. So I've cut this little notch out. And then what I'm going to do, put our cutter aside. Now you could cut this with scissors, or you could put it in your cutter. I'm a little bit of a lazy crafter, so I'm just going to score it good, and then I'm actually just going to tear it. So that you can tell the difference between that and my table. Here we are. So here's the piece that we've cut out. Then I take my scoring tool again, and I'm just going to crease it on all of these lines that we scored. So I'll make a really nice crease on there, fold it to the next score line, crease it there, and do that with all of your score lines. Then when they're all scored, this is how your book sits, with this cut piece off to your left-hand side. This is how you close your book. This one goes in first, this one goes up second, and then this is your cover closing. There is another little tip. When you've done your score line, so we'll go back to our sample, but I'm going to put this green one underneath so you can see my paper, the difference between the paper and my table. So when I have these all scored, your book may not close perfectly and your edges may not all be equal. So I'm going to give you a little tip on what you do to correct that. Kind of reminds me of the correction lines. If you happen to live in Alberta, Canada, and you go out in the country and all the roads are at quarter mile apart, and then every once in a while there's a road that's off a little bit, correction line, right? So this is our Alberta property correction line coming up on our project here. So here's our project. This one goes in first, then it goes up, then this goes over. So when you shut it all, the top meets all nice and flat here. Nothing sticking out. The sides, you have one piece of paper that's sticking out longer than the others. This one right here sticks out a little bit farther. And so what we're going to do is trim that piece off. Now I know from making these for a while, I know exactly which piece that is. It is this page here. Because remember our score line shifted from that one, and that's so that your book closes nicely together. But what it does is creates this page is a little bit longer, a little wider than any of the others. So when it's closed up, it sticks out. So we're going to trim that piece off. Now, if when you go to do your book, you forget which one to trim, one tip, that's the one. But here you go. Here's how you tell. When you have your book all together and everything lines up, you have this one piece sticking out, just hang on to that one. As you open it up, your fingers are holding the one that needs to get trimmed, and that's this piece right here. So we're going to put that one back into our cutter, and I'm just going to take a sliver off there. Now, if you like exact measurements and you don't like working with slivers, that's 1/8 of an inch. So you can take 1/8 of an inch off of there. And now when you, here's your book, when you close it back up again, your top is all nice and flat. All 4 pages nice and even. When you come to your side, all nice and even again. That one that we cut is nice and even with the rest, so nothing's sticking out. So now in your base, nice and flat. So everything's nice and square, and you're ready to decorate. Here's a close-up look again of how we decorated at Scrap and Bean tonight. We had a Heartfelt Creations reveal party that we do the second Wednesday of every month. And we do a $10 project. So you get a pretty good deal. Actually, you get a really good deal because you get the papers that you normally have to buy in a paper pad. And you get to use the die cuts and the stamps. So you get to play with a lot of the new stuff. We also threw in a die cut here from, this is actually a Tim Holtz that says the Paradise Found. It's one of his Thinlit sets. And we made the flowers, we added prills. We've got all of these nice little greeneries. Our flamingo, I love the flamingo, and of course the parrot, we couldn't leave him out. So when you go to decorate, I just trimmed these 1/4 of an inch smaller than what your pages are so that you've got this little green mat around them. The trick is when you have your paper on here, if it's a design like this where it's got birds, it has a top and a bottom. You don't want it to be sitting upside down, then you need to be aware of how your page sits in the album when you're decorating it. So you don't want to work with an open album like this and put everything face up, because guess what? If you're working on the back and it's face up, see how I have this bird happens to be face down? It looks like they're upside down, but when your album is in use, that's actually the right way up. So just be aware of that. One page is a bit of the trick. When you've added the rest of your papers on and you go to add this one on, just make sure that your album is sitting the way you're going to be viewing it and your birds are all going the right direction. Hope you have a lot of fun with that, and watch for more videos in the future. If you're looking for the paper pack, the die sets, the stamp and die combos, or even some more tips, subscribe to our video channel and we'll send out some more ideas for you. Don't forget to get some little prills. We'll have some links for that at the bottom of the video. Have a great day, crafters, and shop at Scrap and Bean.